So that's something I really want to share with you. Now, among the 8 members, there's one person. This person, his last name is Macaulay. He wrote this book, The History of England, a section from the section of James too, right? His book is so beloved in England, but I'm not going to share his book. But I want to say what he shared about his Christian life. He said when he was a kid, even like a teenager, his father was very strict, and he has to recite many Bible verses. So he doesn't know what is fun, what's like relaxed. So sometimes when he walked with his father, in the woods, like father-son walking, and his father will ask him to recite certain Bible verse, even like that. So even though he grew up in a Christian family, but he felt a lot of rule, a lot of force to do something. But when he grew up, he has some opportunity to talk to those people in the 18th century who considered to be a great thinker. But when he talked to those people deeper, he find out those people actually, in their heart, they have some ambition, right? Some human weakness. If they got a power, then certain destructive will happen. So he gradually find out inside him, he actually, in his blood, is flowing certain loyalty like his father. So eventually he became a great Christian and also a great author. But he said this way, he think as a Christian, we should live seriously about the Christianity value, what has eternal value. But we should think also free. We should obey what the Bible is teaching. Then in that way, we will be a normal and right Christian. So this is one of the 8 members in that group. I shared this in the last sermon in Chinese congregation. I might not have much time to share about this, but do you know who those people are? No idea, right? I guess there's a generation gap, I guess. I think 2 years ago I went to Virginia. I visited MacArthur Museum. Right? I saw 5 persons picture there, including Roosevelt, including Stalin, including Hitler, including I think a Japanese emperor, and also the person on the left. He is General Chiang Kai-shek, who is the leader during the World War II in the Chinese region. Right? That's a long story, but I want to share is eventually he was not Christian before, but he wanted to marry his wife on the right. His wife grew up in U.S. and her father was a missionary. Her father actually graduated in Vanderbilt University, and herself went to Wellesley University in Massachusetts. What I want to share is there are certain historical period, and it's very distressful for them. So, as a wife, he wanted to help her husband, especially in understanding the Bible. She saw her husband reading the Old Testament by himself, and it's difficult to understand. So she remembered when she was in Wellesley School, she took a course called the Old Testament history, and still have some note, some material. So she used this old material she had since she was in college, and used that to help her husband. And gradually her husband, every morning they have like half an hour to share, their Bible reading. Through this way, I see a way of passing on also. A Christian from what God gave her, she passed on this spiritual insight to her husband. Madame John Cash is very famous. She actually passed away a couple of years in Long Island. I think more than 100 years old. And if you study the recent Chinese history, especially in 14th century World War II or the Chinese history, they are very important people there. Right? But what I want to point out is she used what God gave her as a gift, even like the study of Old Testament history, to pass on to help her husband, who was the leader of a nation. This is the Wellesley School. It's a beautiful school. 2 years ago when I drove there, I couldn't find the entrance, so I asked, there's a security guard, I think in a shopping center, and I said, do you know Madame John Cash? She said, yeah, I know. And she used to study in this school. And this guy said, oh, is that right? She doesn't know. But she knows the name, but she didn't know this famous woman studying in this school. The last I want to share is this Bible verse. Let's read together. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. And in Mark 6:7, calling the 12 to him, he began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them authority over impure spirit. In here, say 2 by 2. And in the verse above, it said, two can defend themselves, a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Now, I thought I talk about the lady I met in Hafstra, and I have some dream. I think I share with Elder David and Elder Michael also. A cord of 3 strands is strong, right? I have some thought that the older counselor, they can take care of 2 younger people, right? And even like the counselor themselves have 2 older adult to care about them. And did I ask you, there are 2 things in Miss Liu mentioned she does. They did in their church. One thing is to nourish them spiritually, and the second is to care for their daily life dearly. So, just very simple, those 2 things. One is to nourish them spiritually. The other one is to care about their daily life, dearly. And those 2 things, in 2 years, their church built up like 20 counselors. Those counselors are young professionals. And whenever there's a young people, in middle school coming to the new church, very quickly he or her will be assigned to counselor to do 2 things, to him or to her. One is to nourish spiritually. The second is to care dearly, care about daily life. So this way, a strong fellowship, a group, youth group being built up. That couple, you can see the couple level, adult and young professional, and the higher school or even the middle schooler. Right? So every level of them, they can receive those kind of care and those kind of nourish spiritually. Okay, I think our time is almost up. And at last, I was just going to share this. Last year, I had a chance at my home. As I said, I like to watch the firewood, right? So it's snowing outside, and the doors are closed. So we burned some firewood, and when the firewood gradually fading away, right? And the wood is like that, the other part is almost burned. There's only a little bit, the corner still have the red, a little coal fire there, right? So I noticed if I have this and this, they're both almost all burned out, but there's some red here, heat, and here also. When I put them close together and has a little bit gap, and those fire remain for quite long. But if I take this away, this gradually the red part will go away and just become dark and black. But if I put one or two or even three very closely, it has a little gap, and those fire, those heat, kept and remained. And whenever I put a new branch on top of it, the flame come out again. So I told Ruth, Ruth, come here. This is a spiritual lesson for us today here. In church, in our service, sometime we will feel weary, dragging or weary. And our passion might gradually fade away, right? But when we have two or three together, close together, even both of us are both weary, right? But when we keep together one another, encourage each other, keep this fire still there, it will remain for quite a while. And when time is right, when new branch been put in, the new flame will just come out. So it's really, I still remember the night, I was sitting, beside the firewood and share with Ruth. So in your life, when you serve God, when you feel you become tired and weary, find a person who can sharpen you. Find a person who can keep together, pray together to keep this fire, remain there. And also bring in new blood, new branch, and the whole thing will be light again. So that's what I learned. I hope this will be useful for you. So gradually you can see the fire will come out again, when two or three, they're close together. This is probably the last verse. Let's read together in Matthew. But the seed falling on good soil refer to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. 100 times, or 60 times, or 30 times. When our life is really that kind of producing crop and fruit, I guarantee, but not I guarantee, the Bible guarantee, you will have an abundant and meaningful life, in your lifetime. And when we spread God's love, when we spread the truth, when we bring our friends, our neighbors, so they can connect to God directly, that's the revival of a church. People will come to church not for fellowship, not just to find a place to worship, but they truly connect to God and they find God. And only God, when they find, will bring them the eternal life and abundant life. So there was a pastor. Sometimes he will ask himself, "What should I do as a pastor? I need to play piano. I need to lead a fellowship. I need to go help people fix the car and change the tire. I need to go to the hospital to visit people. What's the calling of me? What do I really need to do?" Then he gave this conclusion. He said, "Oh yeah, as a pastor, I am preparing Christ's bride